Hi, team. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Really appreciate Matrix Networks and all of its customers for coming in today and learning more about Zoom and Zoom Phone. My name is Rob Green. I am the head of sales for our commercial acquisition team for North America. Really excited to introduce this fast-growing product within Zoom. As you probably know, most of the world knows Zoom, but knows Zoom as a meetings company. What they don't necessarily know is the fastest growing product within Zoom is in fact Zoom Phone. It is just skyrocketing and customers are loving it. So we definitely hope that you feel the same way and are interested to get your feedback. One thing I do want to highlight is the value of the partnership that we have with partners like Matrix. It's really a complementary bi-directional partnership. They bring fantastic customers to us to introduce to our products. In return, we bring fantastic products and customer service to their customers to make sure they're comfortable with the recommendations, and the partnership just grows from there. So we're seeing a lot of interaction between our organization and Matrix's customers, and we'd love to do the same with you. So I'm going to hand it off to my good friend Doug Starzak, who's going to take it away from here. Doug, over to you.
Fantastic. Any final words from you, Ryan, before I get going?
I mean, I think Doug, Rob said it the best, man. The floor is yours. Go for it.
He's the boss, right? So I just want to thank everybody again for your time today and the opportunity to talk to you all. So obviously we got a whole team here, participating today, and also we'll have a plethora of specialists that will be presenting on Friday. So hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Wanted to kind of start off, and I think there's a quick poll, but I want to get a snapshot of what you guys, you customers out there, kind of see Zoom as, right? Like, what type of company are we? There we go. So do you see us as a video platform? Do you see us as a collaboration software application, webinar, communication tool, or do you kind of see us as all of the above? We'd love to get your take on that. The reason why I'm kind of stating this, right? Because, ultimately everybody, again, knows that we are a video first organization, but we use that kind of route to enhance all other facets of communication, right? Video used to be a nice to have, now it's more of kind of need to have. And it's going to continue to evolve, right? And we talk about the hybrid workforce. Previously, just last year, it was the remote workforce. Who knows what it's going to be tomorrow, right? But ultimately, how we develop our product set, how we go to market, it is fueled by video first, and it's kind of fueled by these fundamental traits, right? So we're always focusing on delivering customer happiness through our product sets, but more specifically around being simple, right? Because if it's not easy to use, it doesn't matter. Secure, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to be able to know that your business operations are not going to be compromised. It needs to be scalable, right? You don't want to have those limitations of what tomorrow might bring, or if you need to peel back because of whatever kind of scenario that might be happening in the marketplace, right? It's got to be innovative, right? You got to be able to have the features and functionalities and capabilities at your fingertips and available when you guys need it or want it. And then extendable, right? We all live crazy in different lives. You got to be able to have a product set that can be flexible to how you want to communicate and operate daily. So talk a little bit about the landscape that we face and continue to face, right? I mean, gosh, COVID, it's kind of shook us all. It would be remiss in saying that if it hasn't impacted everybody in one way or another, I don't know if I'd believe it, right? Based on what I've seen, it's impacted everybody, and some in positive ways, most in some various negative ways, right? And many, pretty much everybody in somewhere in between. But the reality is, it's been the fastest pace of change that's probably been seen ever in humanity's history, right? If you think about what our society looked like before COVID to what it looks like now and may look like in the future, it's a bit nutty to think that that's all happened within 2 years. Right. And so with that, there's a lot of technology changes. So what's kind of been happening in the industry, technologies, and why does it really matter? So there's this coined phrase that I like to kind of highlight here, right? So UCaaS, or what we play in, is called Unified Communications as a Service, but the marketplace really has what I like to call ununified confusion as a service, right? There's still, between legacy hardware and legacy phone systems, et cetera, and even, some voice over IP organizations and things of that sort, they still have things that are not servicing customers in the way of the future, or even the way of today, and how their customers want to be treated, want to be communicated to and serviced, right? And so, there's hardware dependencies, there's high TCO costs, mobility limitations, really they're falling behind or becoming antiquated feature sets. And ultimately, they have no clue what the future state might seem to look like or is developing against it. And then if that wasn't enough, there's been regulation policy changes that impact every business out there, right? Things like Kerry's Law, Ray Baum's Act, these are E911 compliancy requirements that literally the risk of non-compliance can be costly, right? So it could be fines of up to $10,000 and even up to $500 a day of not being compliant, right? And so, these are things that many businesses are facing challenges of their existing phone infrastructure today because they're not adhering to what the policy requires. And again, if that wasn't enough, right, transitioning to the remote workforce, there's been some struggles, right? And so what this is a study from Lenovo, and on the left side, you see here, it's the frequency in which trouble tickets and things of that sort, or just reported problems within organizations out there are. So obviously, no surprise here, Microsoft not working correctly. It seems like that's probably always the case. But then, followed by emails and whatnot. And then on the right, you have the severity and impact of problems to the business, right? And so they're not necessarily correlation, but there's some. But if you see there, it's really more particular around information, files, and software, right? The software in which how they conduct their business. And so, the reason why these two are kind of separated, it kind of displays people are reporting the issues thinking that, the hair's on fire because Windows not working correctly or can't send and receive an email. But the reality is, Microsoft has always had problems, right? But if you can't operate in the daily software that you need to operate in, you can't access the information when you need to access it, well, that starts to become a big impact, right? And that's all part of a collaborative, communicative organization. But there is some good news, right? COVID taught us a lot about the remote workforce. We used to think that remote workers meant a decrease in productivity. Well, the good news is COVID has actually shown us that the top percentage of top performers have actually increased 19% up to 55% by being able to work from home, right? So flexible working environments has actually improved performance, provided that you have the right tools. And so to kind of segue, right, you leave all that, and then there's been kind of this convergence, right? The way we communicated before COVID to how we communicate today is a little bit different, right? Video is a lot more prominent. It used to be nice to have, now it's more of a expected to have. And that convergence has kind of happened, right? It's the multi-channel experience, right? Like some people like to message, some people like to email, some people like to call, some people like to text, some people like video, some people hate video, right? But the reality is it's got to be simplified. It's got to have all the modern phone system capabilities and features that you would expect today. It's got to be easy to manage. You got to be able to be in Hawaii on the beach on your getaway vacation. And if you got to have a fire drill and do a MACD or make adjustments to whatever, you got to be able to do that, right? All from your mobile device. It's got to be secure, right? You got to be compliant. There's requirements. There's things like HIPAA and FINRA and all that great high trust. There's all these requirements and certifications and whatnot. And you got to be compliant with your communications, right? Because if it's compromised, well, you might be in trouble. And then ultimately, you got to have options, right? There's got to be a big ecosystem between integrations and hardware and all that stuff, because everybody works differently and they need options. So this is really the conduits in which we create productivity, right? So our focus and development and a product set around team productivity, things like meetings, chat, phone, and rooms, equitable communications, right? Like just being able to share and transfer knowledge, whether to customers or internally, and then access talent everywhere, right? So these are the ability to, when you need it, be able to have the SME within your organization right at the tip of your fingertips, or maybe the information that they shared previously right at your fingertips, right? And this is where Zoom comes into play and the power of Zoom, right? Like we're much more than just meetings, we're a platform, right? We have a comprehensive product suite, and Zoom Phone obviously being some of the focus today. This platform allows for all forms of communicating, or many forms of communicating, I should say, all within the same exact interface that everybody's used to today, or at least most people are. So what makes us different, right? A lot of our competitors out there, most, maybe even pretty much all, has started typically either the conferencing side of the house or the phone industry side of the house. And then they develop their feature set and capabilities towards video, right? We've worked backwards. We started off in video, and here's the beautiful thing. So video is a lot more complex than voice. And the reason why is there's codec behind video, there's compression, decompression, and it's frankly a lot more bandwidth intensive. Well, phone, and just for an example, right, like video can be 1.5 meg requirement, phone 100 kilobit or KB, right? So the intensity behind it and all that stuff, if you can figure out quality and reliability on video, well, phone is just a walk in the park, right? And if you think about it, the voice aspect of it has already been baked into it because you talk on a video call anyways, and so the voice has been traversing it regardless. So we've had that infrastructure and that capability for a lot longer than many people might have thought. So I touched a little bit about this, right? But ultimately, this is Zoom Phone, right? It's a modern phone solution built out to have the feature sets and capabilities of today, what people expect, but also being prepared, and even some feature and functionality of tomorrow, right? Easy to use, centrally managed, right? Detailed analytics, call reporting, secure, reliable, right? Like high availability, 5 nines, that sort of thing, all the things that we require. And this is a little bit about kind of the extendable concept, right? So what this is displaying here is the ability to transition and kind of have the interface between your desktop PC and then let's say an IP phone, right? Whether you're joining a meeting, on a call, right? Being able to escalate if you're on a call, whether you're on your mobile device or PC, on a phone call, and then escalating that into a video, right? To be able to quickly start a collaboration session. These are all things that are capable of Zoom, and all these things are capable with just a push of a single button, right? So it's really that easy. That's what it's all about. Features, functionality, all of that great security stuff and reliability. I mean, that means nothing if it's not quality and it's not available, right? So this is a study that was done by Winehouse Research that shows what happens when a network packet loss starts to increase, right? So all the way at the right is that 70% packet loss. And the benchmark, right where you see the fair line, that's where calls start to get really bad, right? So anything below 3.5, if you haven't already considered hanging up, you probably already have, or you've just dropped your call already. So if you see a lot of the other vendors out there, it drops off very quickly. And this is what we were able to maintain, right? Like it may not be the best conversation, but at 70% packet loss, it's not so bad. Now, this is a quick little video. I just want to display everybody. This is around how Zoom kind of has an offering to help be compliant with things like Ray Bombs Act and Kerry's Law. Let's just go ahead and play here.
When we're back in the office, we'll be surrounded by fewer people than ever before. In the past, if there was an emergency, we could rely on people nearby to jump in and help. But with so many people working remotely, we may find that we're the only ones in our area of the office. That's why Zoom Phone added new features to E911 to give you peace of mind in the event of an emergency. If someone calls 911, Zoom Phone will alert 2 teams simultaneously: the 911 dispatchers and the internal safety team. Members of the internal safety team will receive an alert on their screen and via chat, letting them know the call has been made, who that user is, and their exact location. A safety team member can even join in on the call to provide additional assistance or instructions to the emergency responders. To further assist the emergency services, the safety team can trigger digital signage to help pinpoint the exact location of the person needing help. Zoom Phone for emergency services is just one of the ways that Zoom is innovating to help with the safe return back to the workplace.
And just to add a little bit to that, we also have what's called nomadic E911 services that can recognize your location on the device in which you are trying to operate on. And it can recognize if it's not the location that's set and configured to what your E911 address is. So that way pops up a little kind of red notification saying, hey, if you dial 911, this isn't the address of where you're at, you need to update it, right? So that helps you be compliant. This is just a snapshot of kind of the growth and trajectory, all that great stuff of Zoom Phone, right? So Zoom Phone, to many people, has only been around for a few years, but the power of the growth and really kind of the power of Zoom and how much focus we've had on it is all kind of displayed here, right? So features, that's great, but really the expansion to over 47 countries, right? Like even more recently, countries like China. It's definitely validated by upmarket customers, right? So over 1,000 employee organizations, over 1,400 have Zoom Phone today. And what took most of our competitors, 10 years, 7 years, 15 years, even in many cases, to have even close to 2 million, it took us less than 3, right? Actually 2. So, and then obviously top verticals, we have a segment on Friday around healthcare as well as financial services. So hopefully you guys enjoy that, but certainly many wins. We've enabled many organizations out there across the globe to operate in the way of the future. And look, none of it matters if it's not cost effective. It doesn't have great TCO because ultimately, cost is king, right? And everybody has budget. And so this is just a snapshot of kind of like, what does Zoom Phone look like, right? So really this is an enterprise grade solution at flexible SMB costs. So what do I mean by flexible? Well, some of you may have current contracts, right? Some of you guys may be large, right? And you're thinking, well, I don't want to deploy all this right away, but I do want all the features. I mean, whatever it might be, we've been known to get creative, to fit budget, to come up with creative offerings to help customers get out of contracts, right? And so, obviously connect with Matrix and our Zoom team to be able to find out more. But that being said,
And I'll just jump in on the pricing model as well, Doug, because I think it's one of the biggest advantages that Zoom has on the market. If any of you have purchased a cloud phone system lately, you've noticed that you probably get one profile or the other, and all of them come with every feature underneath the sun. And oftentimes we just don't need that. So if you have half of an employee base that never uses video, why are you paying for a video service, right? It's one of the flexible components of Zoom that make it such an advantageous choice for people's communication tools.
I love that comment. And it's interesting because there's also many providers out there on the phone side of the house. They either have nickel and dime features or, multiple tiers that like have all the good ones in the higher tiers, right? But you really only need just one feature from that higher tier. Zoom includes all of our feature functionality in any of our tiers, right? So we keep it simple on the phone, but we have the different technology segments to really maintain the flexibility. Great point.
Yeah, and what we like to do on these webinars is always have things be interactive and show the technology. That's kind of our big claim to fame, is not to PowerPoint you to death. So we're very fortunate to have Jean-Paul come on this morning to actually demonstrate Cloud Phone live for y'all. I didn't mention it because I've ran so many webinars over the past 20 months, but Q&A, please feel free to leverage that. whether we can just chat back and answer or ask it to the group if it's applicable. This is also a great time to ask for diving a little deeper. Obviously, we can't get too deep during a demonstration in such a short amount of time. That's obviously where we'd love to set up a customized follow-up demonstration and take the road that you would wish to see. But do appreciate John Paul jumping on with us this morning and giving us a little tour of Zoom Phone. So I think the floor is yours.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. And hopefully I can get you guys excited here about Zoom Phone. Berkeley, I believe we had a poll. Want to launch that? And what would you be most interested in seeing in this demo? Go ahead and take a second here to answer that poll. I don't know about you guys. I'm here for the tonal.
I mean, I'm actually shocked only a few people are selecting that. I was trying to be, thought people would just run for that one, but.
All right. So let me shift gear, and excited to see it all. That is great to hear, because I'm hopefully going to be covering everything mentioned there. I'm going to share my screen here. Bear 1 second. Oops. There we go. Thumbs up, Ryan, if you can see my screen.
I believe we're good to go.
Awesome. All right, so if you are a meetings customer today, and whether you're a paid meetings customer or a free meetings customer, your Zoom client will probably look like this, right? You have your meetings, you have your calendar here, and whether you're using Office 365, Google, or Exchange, we have a push-pull calendar integration where you can see your upcoming appointments and join them easily from the Zoom client. So let's say you go to bed and overnight your phone admin assigns you a Zoom Phone calling plan with a Zoom Phone license. So you will see some additional options here at the top. We'll start with chat and some words of motivation there. If you can see here on the top left, we have things like presence within our chat. So really everything you would expect from an enterprise grade chat UCaaS solution. You can see that I'm presenting. We have some company information like title, department, email, phone number, etc. You can see the presence of your colleagues. See Brian Smith is available here. I'm showing here Michael is in a calendar event, but not in a Zoom meeting. And then Laura here, for example, is in she's online in her cell phone. So maybe she's driving, but she is logged in to Zoom on her cell phone client. So really powerful presence. It allows you to make calls right from the Zoom client. If show you some group functions here, we have a lovely dog lover channel. And you can see all the members aligned with that channel, as well as images shared within that channel. So again, really all the standard features you would expect from a enterprise grade UCaaS solution. So that is chat, and I'm going to shift over to phone. So again, at the top here, we have our phone interface. And I have two users here. I have Rob Stark here on the left and John Snow here on the right. We'll start with the history tab here. If you can see, we can filter, we can see all our call history. We can filter by missed calls, show the date and time. If we've recorded any conversations, any phone conversations, we can filter those there and actually go ahead and play those recordings straight from the Zoom client. with our filter, with our history here, we can choose to call that individual back. We can send a text message. I see in the chat here, we are asking if we can do SMS. Absolutely, we can. So we can send a text message to the cell phone number. We can invite them as a Zoom contact, block the number. I'm sure we've all received spam calls, extended warranty calls. If you happen to receive one of those, you can go ahead and mark that as a spam call, or define a reason for blocking that number. Shifting over to the voicemail tab, you notice here I have some options here under my voicemail. So I have the ability to view obviously my own, but also Jon Snow has shared voicemail delegation with me, Rob Stark, and I can actually look at or listen to his voicemail messages right from my own Zoom client. Rob is also, I'm also a member of the House Start call queue, so I am able to also delegate those voicemail messages. You see here at the very top one, we have a video voicemail. This is actually a new feature that was just recently announced. We have the ability to leave intercompany video mails to give a little bit more personalized touch to being a video first company, to give a little bit more personalized touch into your voice messages. Now this is just intercompany Zoom to Zoom phone user. If you had a traditional voice message, you would.
This is Billy Bob Freeman. I'm calling about the 3 minute.
If you had a traditional voice message, you would see the transcription here, so you wouldn't have to sit there and listen to it. With that, we have some additional options here, like we can save the recording, right? Save the voicemail. Again, block if it was a spam voicemail. So really some really cool, powerful features. I see a question there. If we can record, yes, you can absolutely record a phone call. You can record it to the cloud or record it locally on your computer. I'm gonna switch over to lines. So here I'll see my line, right, and my status. In addition to any shared lines that some members of my organization may have provided to me, right? So I have Ned Stark here as a shared line, and that will allow me to answer calls on his behalf in case he is not available, as well as see the status of his phone, right? If he's in conversation, if he's not available, or in this case, if he's offline. And we have some additional monitoring options. Somebody asked if we were going to show some contact center capabilities. We obviously integrate with some of the major CCaaS providers out there. But Zoom Phone by default includes some basic call center functionality that you would expect in a contact center. Things such as Barge, Monitor, and Whisper, and these things are features that we make available with our call queue. And I'm going to show you guys an example here as we go through this. And then last but not least, SMS. There was a question there. We supported SMS. Absolutely. We have the ability here to compose a new SMS message. And not only can we send SMS as an individual, but if you are part of a call queue and you have the Power Pack license associated to your Zoom account, you can send SMS as on behalf of a group SMS, right? On behalf of this call queue, and that can be answered and received by everybody that belongs to that call queue. So I'm going to go ahead and make a quick test call so you guys can see some of the features available here. receiving a call. I'm going to go ahead and accept. Now I do have the monitoring capability assigned to this call queue. This was a call that came into the call queue. And as you see, John Snow here on the right answered this call. And I have the ability.
You have the ability to mute yourself, because that was a perfect example, unless I mistake where you're going for that.
Am I muted?
You were for a
There we
second.
go. Okay.
I think you're good
Sorry,
now.
guys. Yep. So I have the ability to mute the call. If I wanted to change my audio source, I could do so. If I wanted to add an additional caller to this conversation, I just click this add button. I can, of course, hold the call, transfer the call to somebody else. Somebody asked about recording, we can certainly do so. We can record this call to the cloud or locally. And then we can escalate this phone call to a meeting, right? So in this case, it's detected that I'm a Zoom user. So if I click this meet button, it will escalate this voice call to a video meeting, just like you're used to seeing with our Zoom meetings platform. Obviously, I'm not going to do that in this demo because it is going to cause a little bit of chaos if I try to escalate this, but it is a very powerful feature that leverages our powerful meetings platform. And then some more options, right? We can park the call. Call parking is a popular feature still. We can invite a certain individual for a meeting, kind of sort of like escalate, or we can pre-schedule a meeting, and then as well as do some live call transcription. So on the left-hand side, I mentioned that this call, that Rob Stark is a call queue admin, right? So we have some of these standard basic contact center functionalities. Like here on the left, I can see John Snow is on a phone call with JP, and I have the ability to listen into that call as an admin, right? I have the ability to whisper to John Snow, and that will trigger just a one-way conversation between Rob Stark, the admin, and John Snow, as well as some additional options such as barge, create a three-party conference, right? I'm going to barge into this call, or I can take it over if it's something that John Snow can't figure out. I can take over this call, and it'll automatically put John Snow back on available status. So some really powerful tools that are actually included in Zoom Phone. None of this is an extra cost to what Doug mentioned earlier, with the exception of the group SMS that does require a Power Pack license, which is an additional license. I'm going to pause here and see if there's any questions.
Got a few around Google integrations and Chromebook compatible. I don't know if there's more of an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, we do integrate with Google Workplace for calendar, contacts. We do have that integration.
Yeah, and I posted the link to the to our marketplace gallery where the integration is posted. So there's more information on there if you want to take a look at that after the webinar.
Perfect. Thanks, Doug. So you may have noticed here, and Doug touched up on the fact that we provide you the tools to make sure your organization stays compliant with some of these nomadic or emergency services regulations that have been introduced, like Ray Bond's Act and Kerry's Law. Up here on my phone client at the top right, you'll see that I don't have an emergency address defined for this user because my phone admin decided not to define a location for me. So we've enabled the option for this individual user go in and define their own personal emergency address. For example, I may be at a nearby Starbucks. I am no longer within my company premise. So Zoom Phone detects that, hey, I am not in a known address. So I'm going to give you the ability to go in and define what emergency address you are in. So I'm going to go ahead and put the nearest Starbucks here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to set it as a default emergency address, but I'm going to go ahead and add it. And so we do have geocode validation. Make sure that the address that you are inputting is a valid address. Oops, I think I missed a 0. There we go. So it'll obviously correct any address information here. And we're going to go ahead and use is address. And you can see my little notification pop-up went away. And if I go to my user settings and I scroll down to phone, we will now see that we have an emergency address that this user inputted. I'm going to shift focus here a little bit and switch over to the admin client because I want to show you how, now that I've entered this address, we have the ability here to, if we go to phone and we go to our emergency addresses, you'll see that address that I just entered. In addition, you'll see some network information because I have network location sharing. Zoom Phone's captured this network data and associated it with this address. So I have an IP, I have a public IP, internal IP, and I also have a MAC address of the wireless network that this user was at the time they recorded this address. So if this user happens to come back to this network location, it will automatically map this address location to that user. So again, you can get down and to the network, to the switch port level using LLDP data to define individual emergency addresses for your organization. Very powerful tool. So how do you make sure that all your users are compliant, right? How do you make sure that everybody's using location sharing, or that all your users are have an emergency address defined? We have actually built the tools within our dashboard to allow you to track location tracking, right? So out of my users in my organization, I can see that 66% of them have enabled nomadic services. I can actually drill in and find out who has and who hasn't. All of my users are enabling location sharing. How many of these users are using the default emergency address versus a specific localized address? As well as some real-time location for IP phones, right? If you had IP phones instead of the client, we can even drill this down to specific emergency addresses for IP phones. We have some additional features within our dashboard, which I believe are excellent. We have the ability to view within our organization how many calls come in and go out, as well as how many were missed, call time. We can share the same information regarding SMS messages, how many SMS messages were sent. Of those SMS messages, how many went to the call queue, as well as auto receptionists. We can even drill it down to the number, to the user. Shift here and look at some more specific call information. Going back to reporting. So again, some very powerful reporting tools that we offer here. We have the ability to do call queue real-time analytics. So kind of this is included with the Power Pack that I mentioned, giving you some more enhanced statistics around the call queues that you've set up. We can define a service level, inbound monitor calls, how many calls have come in, how many calls are going out, total number of calls for the day, average handling time. So we got some very powerful tools here available. We can actually even display this to a wall board and select various KPIs in case you're interested in a particular KPI, maybe not all of them. And then we have very powerful reporting tools as well. If I go ahead and give myself here a little bit more time. I can show you guys, we have some graphing report that you can export, as well as some detailed reports here that show conversations at an individual basis. You can actually click on these calls and drill down sort of cradle to grave, right? The whole call experience. So this call was an inbound call from this number. It reached this call queue and it was answered by Rob Stark. And you can drill down and see what happened to this call from cradle to grave. And of course, you can export this data into a CSV format that you can then later review or aggregate as you wish. Wrapping up here, if you're familiar with the admin interface, it is Zoom Phone. Really, is just another click here on the left-hand side. Very easy to manage. We have our users that belong to our organization. From here, we can assign them telephone numbers. We can assign them a package, associate a desk phone to them, and associate them to a specific site. If your organization has more than one location, you can define separate locations with their own dialing plans. We can define our auto receptionists. Call queues, again, we saw an example of how the call queue works. Some shared line groups. So really everything is really easy to configure, right here available with 1 or 2 clicks on the left-hand side. We'll pause here and see if we have any questions.
I was hoping, Jean-Paul, that the audience would throw out one more Hail Mary to give me another 5 minutes or whatever, but I mean, that just gives people time in between meetings to grab coffee or whatever they got to do. So I don't see any, oh, well, yeah, there's one question about the Citrix work environment.
Absolutely. Yep. We do support Citrix as well as VMware Workspace. Absolutely. That is something that we can support. If you require more info, please, get in touch with Ryan here and he'll direct you to the right team and provide you some more information, but yes.
You don't have exactly a 7-minute demo on that?
I don't.
Another one out of the left field here, but very applicable. If there's anything you'd like to address about security features when it comes to Zoom Phone.
Yep. So we do offer end-to-end encryption on Zoom phone calls, just like meetings, right? As well as we have the ability to restrict certain features from certain users. As well as some information that they can see in these reports that I shared. So yes, absolutely, we take security very seriously. If you need more information, please reach out to the Matrix team and we can set something individualized and personalized for your organization.
Beautiful.
Ryan, I'm going to turn it back to you here.
Thank you very much, sir.